everyone, and welcome to Heart and Life Sailing. Today we're going to make another craft. We're going to make a seat storage compartment for our dinghy. We have a lot of issues with water getting into our tank through our jerry can as well, and our funnel always gets wet. So what I want to have is some storage here so we can keep our gas can and our funnel safely in here, or if we're going to be away for a while we can put our little handheld radio in here, so on and so forth. So let's get started. Taking a measurement of the width and height of this and how far down we can go. So this is what I'm looking to build. This is the side profile. The bottom is going to be 12 inches deep. This is where the bench sits, so it's 8 inches wide, 24 inches long, and 3 3/4 inches thick. So these are the sizes of my panels, and the widths on this is the front of it, so the bottom's going to be 12 inches, but on this part, the front part coming down from the bench is going to be longer than this one, and that's where I'm going to have some locking connectors so that the whole front can open up to get what's inside but overlap so water stays out of it. And this is the front view, so what I'm going to try to do is use the transparent, I think it's called isinglass. What our enclosure was made of on our cockpit had the clear glass, so it's going to be framed in fabric but with a clear panel in the middle, so you can easily see inside and you don't have to dig in with a flashlight, because this will be underneath the bench. To get started, I'm just going through some of these fabrics. I'm going to see what I can use. We have quite a bit of fabric, and this is the clear glass panels. It's still in really good shape, so there'll be a lot of use out of that yet. Alright, so this is the panel I'm going to start with, and the numbers work out pretty good because we are over the 24 inches wide. So what I'm going to do is use this side where the stitching's already there. I removed the little connector on this side. I'm going to move this one over also. I'm going to use the width of this. We got 5 inches for the front overhang. We got 8 inches for the width of the top, and then coming down the back we have 12, 13, 14, 15 3/4, and that's more than enough. So this right now is big enough to do the front facing front edge of the seat across the top all the way down the back, and then just in a little bit. So that is where we'll stitch in another panel to do the bottom and up the front, and then from there we need to find a panel to connect the two of these underneath the seat. So what I want is the same overlap on both sides, so it looks symmetrical, because this is already done like this. So I'm going to take my 24 inches of my width, and then I'm going to add this to that, which is 1 3/4. This is going to end up 25 3/4, and this is my cut mark, and this is my sewing mark. So this is where I'm going to put the fold. This is where I'm going to cut the fabric off. I'm going to carry that along the whole width here.
Trees, horizons calling, can't ignore.
This is why it's good to be open-minded about everything. I was going to be using these connectors, these twist lock connectors. There'd still be like big gaps in between the connectors, and I just remembered that the Surround had good zippers, and this is the perfect size zipper already. I'm just going to seam rip that to get it off of here, and I'm going to install this instead of the twist locks. That way it'll be much more efficient at keeping the water out.
Set the sails and feel the breeze. Oceans with a gentle tease. Task and we go, let them be. Rock the waves and roam so free.
Alright, this is now my top and part of my front section. So this is the top, this will be the front underneath the lip of the seat, and that's how we're going to get into the compartment. Just sewing on this little piece of, it's called webbing, so the zipper can't go past the end there.
down a distant base. Even stars seem lost in haze. Chase horizons far wide, and the ocean's arms behind. Set the sails and feel the breeze. Oceans voice a gentle tease.
Okay, so now I have the little lip of the front. So this is the seat cover upside down. Gonna rest here. This lines up here to unzip. Then this is the back of it. And now I have 12 inches of hanging space. So we're gonna mark from here 12 inches. And then the width of this, which is 7.5 on the bottom. So 7.5 it is. 7.5 on the bottom, and then this will be cut off, and I'll sew a front panel on here because that's going to wrap all the way around and fold again like this and come up the other side. So I'm going to draw those out, and I'll have the basic shape of this, and then I have to sew a front on it and then ends on it. I think I might do a divider in the middle as well, just to help keep it shaped so it doesn't sag out. Got the pouch sewn. Gonna fold this inside out and hope that it fits. No guarantee I did anything right. This is obviously not a sewing channel. This is a do-it-yourself channel. If this fits all right, I'm gonna double stitch it. But if it doesn't fit, I don't want to pull out double stitches. And this is how you correct your mistakes. Luckily with this fabric, it's pretty easy to do because it doesn't really leave holes where you sewn. If this was like a type of vinyl or false leather kind of material, you can't even do this because you're left with a bunch of holes. But living is learning, and I'm gonna give this another shot. I somehow sewn it together and the flaps are all on the wrong side. I'm gonna have to reassess the situation and get back in a few moments with a new game plan on how to sew this pouch together. I made a mark where I want the two panels to be sewn together, and I'm just folding it like this because this will just go along on the inside of the storage area, so it doesn't really matter if there's an edge in here. I can fold that over and sew it on to close the seam once I've got this sewn together. That way I know that it is going to fit. Got lots of pins in there this time. This, I believe, is the bottom. Oh, that's a nice fit. Beautiful. And there's my zipper to get inside. That is going to need some oiling. This was used for our surround, so it didn't get that much sun to it because you only have the surround up ever so often. So now this is the back of my box, and it's going to fold like this. So I need to make the front of the compartment and the sides. So the next thing I gotta do is cut my front panel. So this zipper here is right at the bottom edge of the bench, and this fold right here is basically the front bottom of the front panel. I need to do a front panel to fill this in. So I think I want a couple inches of fabric before the window, and then at least an inch of fold over. So the window is going to come up to about here. At the bottom, I have a fold over here. I'm going to cut it fairly abruptly because it's going to be the glass, and I'm going to sew that on directly to here. It's already got sides on it. So I'm going to go ahead and cut myself a 10-inch panel that already has the windows on it. Windows aren't square. Yeah, I got 25 inches on that end. I got 20 inches on this end. So this is the end I want. So I'm gonna want 10 inches of this. So a small amount of fabric to sew it onto, and then down to here. So it's gonna be something like that. So I'm gonna go ahead and mark that out and cut it and prepare it to sew on. I'm doing here, these two panels will get sewn together. That'll be my zippered front. This clear panel is going to go right down to the bottom, so it's basically going to be the bottom edge. So I'm just folding this fabric over to where I want the bottom edge to be, and I'm lining that up with the bottom of the plastic, and that'll be the bottom of the bag. And I'll have a clear window, I can see inside, I can unzip it. Once I get this put together, I just gotta put the sides on it, and then that wraps up this project. Alright, now it's time to make my ends for the bag. I just propped it up here on our upper settee or bunk and a rope so I could hold it kind of hanging. Put a book in here that is the same width and measure just to make sure everything worked out, and it is the perfect measurement. I got 8 inches wide, 12 inches high. So because I need to sew tabs onto there, that's going to be 14 inches by 10 inches. I want 1 inch all the way around of extra fabric.
In the groove you'll surely find a world of calm and endless dreams where every tone chord means.
Alright, now that I got my panels cut here, I drew 1 inch in, so that's where it's going to be sewn on to the bag. So what I'm going to do is fold it to a triangle, and then I'm going to simply sew along this line right here, and that's going to create my pockets for the corners.
City whispers low, echoes in the park, feel the midnight flow, stars align above, shadows softly play, whispering our love, in the night we stay, midnight breeze, cool and sweet.
Alright, now I have my end caps sewn. I cut the corners off. I give them a little iron so they keep the shape a little bit easier while I'm sewing. And I marked off my excess on this as well. I'm leaving 1 inch so it helps to line it up with this when I'm sewing in areas where I can't see the line. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut off this excess now. I don't have an overlap on the top section because that was one width going all the way around. There may have been a better way to do that, but this is the only way I know how to do that. The top part that wraps around the actual bench is one consistent length. This section right here, because I didn't want the overlap there. Technically I could unstitch this and then fold it out, but I'm gonna figure that out shortly. Okay, so now I'm going to turn this inside out and sew along this line here. So I'm basically lining these two edges up. I'm sewing 1 inch in all the way around where the pins are, and that is going to give me a closed end on this. Alright, this is basically how I'm trying to do these ends. I did a horrible job on this one. I had to bunch it up a bit here in the front corner. It's going to be under the bench. I'm not going to sweat it. I've already unstitched and stitched this a couple times. This part of it's a little bit harder than I was anticipating, but I'm hoping this side here is going to go together a little bit better. I have a little bit of practice at it. It's still kind of a tricky situation. When you fold this over, now you got this extra tube in here. You have to be able to put that together, sewing these zippers right together, not sewing any of this, and then getting your end cap to still line up with all the corners. Sure, it sounds super easy, but it was a challenge. So I'm going to try this again. Hopefully it goes better this time.
In the trees, feel the beat, moonlight on your face, glowing pure and bright, hold you in this place, losing track of time, passing hours fade, morning just a dream, in a rooftop glade, life is but a stream.
Alright, finally got it. I got the end sewn on. See, it was kind of tricky because I got this pocket here for the bench to go through, and then that's closed off to this end. So it's almost like, but I have this as one continuous piece of fabric on the back so that it's strong. I didn't want to have a seam right here. In hindsight, it would have been a lot easier to just make a bag and then sew the strap on after the fact. It'd be a little less strong, but it would definitely have been easier to make than the approach I did. So I'd recommend that if you're making this, actually just make your bag first. Make a zippable bag, and then instead of having this all one piece going around, just sew a strap on that fits over top of the bench, because I made it a little bit more complicated than I needed to, and it was a little bit difficult to sort out. Every time you flip it inside out, it looks so different. Nothing lines up anymore. It's not like a regular inside out bag, because now you have this big pocket and you have to avoid sewing this into this seam. But it turned out really well, considering I was on the verge of walking away from it today. I got a kind of messed up corner here, but I guess nobody's going to see that. It's going to be underneath the bench of our dinghy, and I'm probably my own worst critic. I'm going to double stitch all these now because this is kind of a strong point. I'm going to roll these over, sew them together, make this more durable, and then we're going to try it on. So my last step here is just folding this over and sewing it just so that there's less fabric here to fray. It's on the inside of the bag, so I'm not super concerned, but I hope the next one I do will be better than that. It gets to be really tough. At the corner, we got like 4 layers of fabric here, and then 2 layers here folded over, and the whole thing's folding over. So there's like 10 layers of fabric there. It gets to be a bit much, so I've had to kind of bail out on the corners a little bit and just sew around following this line, because I just can't fold over this 10 or 12 layers of umbrella. It's just a little too much. Alright, that one turned out quite a bit better. Just like to melt my little loose ends here, especially on the inside. This prevents them from coming loose on me. And this is all the inside. Just want to clean it up, and let's go put this on the dinghy and see how she fits. Lots of weather today, so I wasn't planning on going anywhere, so the dinghy's up on the stands. There we go. What I think I'm going to do lastly is, I don't want that to get in the water, and because if something goes in here and it's heavy, it's going to make it sag a bit. So we're going to bring this back inside, and I'm going to cut something to fill that bottom with, maybe a piece of plexiglass. Alright, the last step here for this project is I'm going to put a base on the bottom of the bag. I don't want to use wood because it'll just hold moisture and rot, but what I have is some 6mm plexiglass left over from our hardtop enclosure. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that, get that sanded smooth and installed. Alright, and get this fit in here, peeled off. Beautiful. Perfectly fitting. Got a bottom on there now. Looks great. Let's get it installed. There we go. We got a bag here. We got space underneath for water flow. Hopefully it'll stay dry. Now we can put our jerry can in there. We can put our funnel in there. Our baler. And then zip it up. Everything stays dry. And it's totally out of the way. Perfect. That is it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed watching this. You maybe learned something. You're going to give this project a try. Go ahead and leave me a comment and I'll be happy to answer any questions. This is basically an idea of how you could do this. I'm no professional sewer. I struggled a bit putting the ends on. If I did it again, I'd definitely do it a little bit differently. Definitely be easier to cut out of a single piece of fabric and just make large templates with your 1-inch overlaps, and that way everything just lines up from the end. A lot simpler, but I was using scraps and I don't regret it. I wanted to use up this material. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button before the video ends, and consider subscribing, and we'll see you next week. Get your coffee and tune in for our next show. Have a good day.